Hi, this is Dyanne Klinko, Backstage Pass Presents, and I have with me a very special visitor. We have Gary Pihl from Boston here with us today, who's going to talk to us about a new band, The Roads, and a new album that's out. We're going to talk about a little bit about Boston, and we're going to talk a little bit about collection of guitars and other stuff. So, Gary, welcome.
Well, thanks, Dyanne. Good to see you and hear you again.
It's so good to see you too. Let me ask you, The Roads, talk to me about this band.
Wow. Okay. Of course, everything leads from something else, right?
Yeah.
So for the last 30 years or almost, I've been on the record label Escape Records out of England with my buddy Robert Berry.
I know that guy.
Yes.
I've heard him before.
Famous in his own right.
Yeah.
So he and I have been on Escape Records with our other band, Alliance, with, of course, Dave Lauser on drums. And we started with Alan Fitzgerald, alias Fitz, from Night Ranger on keyboards with us. And of course, Fitz had played with me in Sammy Hagar's band, as did, Dave Lauser, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the long story short. So we've been on that label. And so the president of the label, Khalil, called me up one day and said that he was putting together a 30th anniversary tribute to his label, and he wanted to have all the musicians, or as many musicians as he could, to participate in this album. So it was like a double album worth of songs. And so I said, okay, sure, be glad to. And so I said, so what song do you want me to play? And he said, I'll send you this song, see if you like it or not. And so he sent me the song. I said, sounds good. And whoever did the demo or playing guitar on this sounds terrific. Why do you need me? And he said, well, you should change it and make it your own style. And so, of course, I said, well, look, if I'm going to change it and play it in my style, can I change anything else? Like, I would change the groove of this, And he said, yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead. I said, well, that requires changing the drum part. Who's the drummer? Can we get him to change his part? And he said, oh yeah, it's Josh Devine, the drummer that had been with One Direction, the boy band, for many years. And I said, oh, wow. Okay. And so he said, yeah, talk to him. So I talked to Josh, and nicest guy ever. And I said, yeah, look, I'm thinking about, instead of, straight into this da 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 da, I said, how about we do a half beat, da 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 da, and then go into the da da da, for the chorus. He says, oh yeah, man, I'm all over that stuff. I can do that, for days. And I said, okay, great. So we did that. And I said to him, since he'd already played on the track and kind of knew it, I said, now, I hope the songwriter doesn't mind that we're doing this. And so, of course, he said, well, as a matter of fact, my dad is one of the songwriters, Mick Devine, from the band Seven. They were a British band. And I said, okay, great. So, and at that time, he said, you guys should, maybe hook up a chat or something. Maybe you know somebody in common or this or that. And before I could even get a hold of him, Khalil wrote me back, again, the guy from Escape, and said, hey, I think you've obviously changed this song that was Mick's. Maybe you guys could work on some other songs, just see what happens. And I said, okay, sure. Yeah, I'm always up for working with new people. Mick lives in England, so it's not too far away, but we're not going to get together. Yeah. So we started talking on the phone. And again, same thing, really nice guy. They're a wonderful family, And I said, well, you probably have some ideas, some riffs or this or that, lyrics, melodies. And I said, I've always got some guitar riffs in the bank, so to speak, that I enjoy playing. And he says, yeah, sure. He said, well, as a matter of fact, I recorded this one song that I liked, but I didn't like the way it turned out, the instrumentation or whatever. He said, but I like the melody and the words. And I said, okay, well, send me that over and I'll take a shot at it, see what I can do with it. So he sent me just the vocal track. So it's him singing like out of the blue. Da, 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 da. It's like, wow. It's like I had no idea what key it was in or what the tempo was. There was no click track, no guitar, piano going along with it. Just da, 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 you know. It's like,
You had a
wow.
challenge in front of you, didn't you?
I'm up for the challenge. I've never done this before, but give me a shot at it, you know. So I started playing the chords that I thought would fit in what tempo I thought the words were, you know. I think this is the tempo, and I think these chords will go with his melody. And so that was our first attempt at collaboration. So I sent that back to him with, you know, with my version of it. He goes, "Oh, this is great." And Khalil, also from the label, said, "Yeah, I love this. It's great. Keep going." And so from then on, of course, we were more collaborative. Like I'd have a guitar riff, he'd have a vocal line, and we'd go back and forth rather than just running blind, you know. So that's how it started. And so we just started putting songs together, and we certainly had some of the same influences over the years, and we liked the same kind of music. And gee, it just worked out great. He's like my best friend now, and I've never met the guy.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great story. I mean, really.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's so nice to meet somebody and have an immediate connection with them, and just, you know, and we're both really proud of the way it turned out, you know.
And so this album with the Roads is out.
Came out in November.
Okay.
And so we've got a couple of videos. So if you go to theroads.band, you'll see those. And of course, it's on YouTube and Spotify. You can look it up for The Roads. And the title of the album is Simple Man, which is, yeah, one of the tracks on the record.
I like that. I like that, Gary, very much.
Good. Well, thanks.
Is the Roads going to tour?
I wish we were. And again, I've talked to the record company saying, "Hey, can you put something together?" We're obviously a long ways away, you know, either in the US or over in Europe. And certainly they have festivals over there as well as here. And I said, you know, can you put something together? And I would love to have, oh, and so I should continue to say the rest of the clientele on the album. So of course, we wanted to use Josh on drums, and he's such a fantastic drummer. And of course, now working with his dad, I mean, how great is that, you know? And so for bass guitar, I chose my bandmate, Tracy Ferry from the band Boston, and because he lives locally here. So he came over to my house and, you know, for a couple of days and put on the bass parts. And of course, he played fantastic. And then for keys, I called up some buddies of mine, Paul Taylor from Winger, also Alice Cooper's band, but I knew him back before either one of us were in famous bands back in California when we lived there. And he and I were in a band shortly together. And we knew him. So he did like 7 songs. And then I had another buddy here from Massachusetts, Neil Miller, playing a couple songs. And then I also got a hold of I'm blanking on the guy's name, Lawrence Gowan. I kept wanting to say Larry because Khalil knows him as Larry. I said, Larry, I just know him as Lawrence, you know, Lawrence Gowan from Styx. And so
yes,
we had, when I was in Boston, one of our Boston tours, Styx was on the show with us, and we got to meet the guys. And as it turned out, Lawrence is a vegetarian like Tom and I are. And so when he was around and we were about to have dinner, we'd say, "Hey, Lawrence, come on over here and have dinner with us." And he'd go, "Oh yeah, sure." Yeah. Because we had our own chef travel with us.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So he was glad to have a gourmet meal. So anyway, nice guy. And so I again got a hold of him, and he said, "Oh yeah, sure. Send me some." But he said, "I'm on the road with Styx, but I'll squeeze it in somehow." So again, through the magic of modern recording, he was able to play on 3 tracks for us. And so again, very happy with the way all those guys played for us, you know.
Wow, that is fabulous how everybody came together. all these bits and pieces, from different bands, and they all come
Right.
together and create this sound, and this music. It's
Eh,
absolutely wonderful to hear.
Well, thanks. And again, our goal was not to sound like Boston, because I said, no, Tom Scholz does that really well. I don't need to do that. You
Yes.
know, I want to get my own sound. And actually, Khalil from the label said, wow, your guitar tone is really different. It doesn't sound like anybody else. I said, oh, great. That's just what I'm looking for. And I
Yeah.
said, I've been working on that for the last 50 years.
Well, you know what? I think that I have said this before, that you have a very distinctive sound when you
Oh,
play
thank you.
guitar. And I really like Walk On.
Yes,
I love that album. And, now we're getting into Boston a little bit here. But
sure.
there's some songs between, and I wrote them down here because I did not want to forget them, was where is it? Where's my song? Because let's see, the song that I'm looking for is on your first album, the very first album that you put out,
First album with whom?
where you joined Boston.
Okay, that was the third stage, and that
The
third
third
stage
stage.
album.
And the
And
first song on that album
right, that was.
blew my mind.
Oh well, thank you. That was called "I Think I Like It,"
That's
and
it. I think I
and
like it. I have it written down in here, and my mind just couldn't find it. But
yeah,
I thought that that song had a lot of. It was complicated, and there's just a lot of different things going on in this song, and the way you handle that with the guitar is, to me, it's very unique. It's special.
well,
And
thank you.
I truly enjoyed listening to that song.
Well,
And
thanks.
I've got a couple of favorites in Walk On too. Walk On is also a great song, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
thanks. Yeah, that's one where we're on our own. It's like there's a long when we do it live, and there are parts where we all take solos. There's a bass solo and a drum solo, and like which of course is not on the record. But
yeah,
we just go for it. So yeah, we have free reign. Hey, do whatever you want in this section. You got 16 bars. Just go for it. So that's a great thing. That's one of the things I always enjoy working with Tom. Certainly, some of the songs we want to do just like the record, but there
sure.
are other points where he says, "Hey, do whatever you want. Go ahead, go for it." So it's been
Yeah,
great working with him all these years, and I hope that we will tour again. But you never know, COVID and all.
my fingers are crossed, because it's one
Yeah,
of the questions I had is, will Boston be touring anytime
right.
soon? So,
Won't be this year. I can tell you that.
okay,
Because
all
if
right.
so, we would have known by now. We
Yeah,
would have
yeah.
we would have had to, of course, book all the shows and get the crew together and
Right.
sound and lights and all those kind of things. And so, yeah, we're not going this year, and it's just because of COVID. Because
Yeah.
again, we had toured 4 years in a row, which was really unusual for us. So that was what 13, 14, 15, no 14, 15, 16, 17. And then Tom said, well, let's take a break here for, a year or two. And then COVID happened. And so here we are kind of like waiting. We've, of course, got friends that go out and say, oh, then so-and-so got COVID and now they're back and they got to stop and this and that. So it's like, gosh, well, I guess, we'll wait until whatever, that it seems a little safer to go out.
Right. You want to
So,
be careful,
yeah,
especially when you're surrounded by so many different people. You just really want to be careful.
right. Of course, besides the other people in the band, there's all our crew, and they have to interact with all the stage hands and all the truckers and everybody else that interacts with everybody else, and not to mention all the people in the audience. And so it's, 6 degrees of separation, and all of a sudden, you know, this you've shaken hands with, 10 other people down the road, so
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's
yeah.
exactly. I have to ask you, I'm looking at all these incredible instruments behind you.
Huh.
And the question that I have is, I'd like to know what guitar you prefer to use more than any of the other ones. Is there a guitar that you like to have as your go-to guitar?
You know, I don't know if you can see it. Let me pull it down for you here.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'm listening to you on headphones here. So if you can see this,
I can. It's green.
well, it shouldn't be. It should be black.
Black. Okay, it must be light.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, it's a PRS guitar. I don't know if you can see the headstock there now.
Wow.
Anyway,
Nice.
this is not an expensive guitar. I paid $750 for this guitar.
Yeah.
And it, let me hang it back up here just a sec. But it does just what I need to do. It feels good. It sounds good. That's what I use on stage with Boston. And that's what I use a lot of times in the studio. I've got some other guitars, which again are not expensive guitars necessarily, but they feel good and sound good. That's what I go for. So I don't have a lot of vintage guitars that, you know, that cost $50,000 or something. That's just not my thing.
Yeah.
So $750, you know, there you go. You can buy one today down at Guitar Center for that much and use the exact same guitar I use, you know, with Boston.
That's awesome. You know, sometimes you think that people that are in just these amazing bands that are performing in huge places, and you think, oh man, they've got to be using like top-notch, expensive equipment, you know, but to hear you talk about it being more, hey, you know, it's not necessarily all about the money. It's about
Right.
the sound. And I never thought about it like that. I don't know why I never did, but I do think about it that way, and it makes a lot of sense. Of course, use
Sure.
something that sounds the best to what the sound you're looking for.
Right. You know, to that end, of course, in Boston, we're probably the only band in the world that plays amps that we built. You know, Tom Scholz, of course, invented the Rockman, the headphone device, but then he also went on to, you know, with his company, Scholz Research, which I worked at. So we designed all the amps that we use on stage. So again, we got to be the only band in the world that plays through amps that we built.
Wow, that's
and
incredible.
To that end, when we first started using them in '87, that was the first tour I did with the band. And so we got some crew guys in, and they, of course, all this gear from Rockman was brand new. They had never seen it before. And it doesn't look like a traditional guitar amp. It's got knobs, you know, volume, treble, and middle bass. It's got sliders and switches. And they said, what is this stuff? They had no idea. So Tom and I had to like show them how this stuff works. And it's still working today.
Well,
that's what we use on
because
stage.
it was made by great hands, you know, it was put together by geniuses, I have to say. And I understand too that not only do you build the amps, but you also are quite a recording engineer and you have your own studio.
I do. These days, of course, it's just a laptop computer. But in the old days, you know, of course, I started like everybody else, you know, with just a 2-track or a cassette recorder. And then you get, hey, let's get 2 cassettes. We'll bounce them back and forth. Or, you know, I bought a 4-track and then an 8-track machine and started to record this. So this is when I was in Sammy Hagar's band. So I, you know, was buying some recording equipment instead of furniture for our house. So my wife was kind enough to let me do that.
Oh, bless her heart.
And so besides recording my ideas, I invited some of my friends from other bands over to record demo ideas. And so they could try to get a record deal. And I was, again, blessed that I had been working with Sammy and I got a deal and I'm, you know, doing well. And so I'm going to try to help some of my other friends, one of which was our keyboard player from Sammy's band left to join a bunch of other guys, and they started their band called Night Ranger. And so they did their first demos in my living room, one of which
Wow.
was Sister Christian.
Oh, I know that band.
Yeah, Night Ranger.
Night
And so,
Rangers. Yes, I know that.
yeah.
And you know what else too? You were in a band that with a song I absolutely love. And that is Spirit in the Sky.
Yes, Norman Greenbaum.
Norman Greenbaum. And I tell you truly, that is such a favorite song of mine. That I just listen to that all the time. I love that song.
Yes, it's in 100 different movies, like Forrest Gump, and goes on and on and on. It was it was in Apollo 13, and whenever they want to evoke that era, because that song came out in 1970. So whenever they want to, sort of set the tone, like, okay, here's where we were in time, they play that song. And so the deal there was Norman had this big hit in 1970. He took some time off to have a couple of kids and started a goat farm in Petaluma, California. And I was living in Petaluma with my other band, we had a club band called Crossfire. One of the guys in that band, the keyboard player, was Mitchell Froome, who's gone on to be a terrific producer. He's done Elvis Costello, Paul McCartney, Los Lobos, Sheryl Crow, on and on and on and on, anyway, he and his brother, who also played keys, were in the band. And we had heard that Norman was living in Petaluma like we were. And so we said, gee, let's get a hold of this guy. Maybe he would like to produce us or something or whatever. And so the first thing was he was, again, had his career, but now we wanted to kind of make a comeback, right, and start playing again. And so we said, okay, let's do some gigs together. So we were playing this one dance, like a high school dance or something. Yeah. And so our band Crossfire went on first, and then we left the stage. And then Norman gets up there and he's got his acoustic guitar and he's playing and singing. And the audience, being young people, a little bit bored with it. They're just kind of standing around. And so our drummer, Steve Jones, gets back on stage behind the drums and starts playing along with Norman. And of course, Norman looks around like, what's going on here? And he looks at Steve and he looks at us, and we sort of knew his songs. We certainly knew Spirit in the Sky, and he called us up and we just started playing with him on stage. No rehearsal, just started playing. Again, both Mitchell and his brother have perfect pitch, and they're like yelling to the chords. So it's B, C, D sharp, whatever. And we're just started playing with them. And then again, we sort of knew Spirit in the Sky, and of course the audience loved it. And so we started doing gigs like that, Norman Greenbaum and Crossfire.
Wow. So, that is awesome. I tell you, you must have been just feeling like, man, we're just jamming. We're just doing it.
That's it. No rehearsal whatsoever. Just get up and start playing.
Isn't that the best sometimes?
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings me to December People. Now you played with Robert Berry.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know how you and Robert met, how you guys got together.
Okay. I was in Sammy Hagar's band for 8 years. He got the call to join Van Halen, and of course told us, I hate to leave the band. You guys are the best band ever. But I got the, call. I can't, an offer I can't refuse.
Right.
I got to go. Yeah. I got to go play with Van Halen. I said, but you guys, he was saying, but you guys are such a great band. You should be able to find some other singer to just, take my place and keep on going. And at the time we were on Geffen Records. And so the folks at Geffen knew Robert Berry because he had been in the band 3 with Keith Emerson, Carl Palmer. And they said, gee, you guys should get together. And so right when Sammy left our band, which again, our last show was Farm Aid 1 out in Champaign, Illinois. But in the meantime, Tom Scholes from Boston had heard that Sammy was leaving our band, and he called me up and said, "Hey, I heard you're out of a gig." And he said, "Would you come back to Boston and play on the last song that I need recorded for the Third Stage album? I think I like it." And at that point, that's all he was offering me. It's just like, "Could you play on this song?" And I said, "Okay, sure." So I left directly from Farm Aid, flew to Boston, played with them, for a few weeks while we're working on this song. And that's when he said, "Gee, I think we work well together. Why don't you move back here? We'll finish this album, we'll tour, and then we'll work on the next album." And I said, "Okay." So I packed up the wife and kids. In the meantime, again, Geffen Records had told the other guys in the band, "Hey, we got this guy, Robert Barry, you should try him out." And they talked to him, or they went to see him play, and I said, "Yeah, he's really good. But darn, Gary just left. He's in Boston now." Jesse Harms, strange bedfellows. Jesse Harms, our keyboard player from Sammy's band, went to play with David Lee Roth.
Oh.
So we kind of all went separate ways there. So we didn't have a chance. But anyway, to wrap it up, so then, so with Boston, we did the Third Stage album and tour. That was very successful. And Tom said, "Okay, we're going to take our time making the next album, Walk On. So if anybody's got any solo projects or anything else you want to do, go ahead." And so I called up Dave Lauser and Alan Fitzgerald. I said, "Let's put the band back together again." And they said, "Yeah, we met this guy named Robert Barry. He's really good." So that's how I met him. Because they had met him, and we were introduced through Geffen Records.
And then that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
That's right. Robert is such a nice guy.
He really is.
And of course, very creative. He plays everything really well.
Yes, he does. I don't know how he does it. I really
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it's been great working with him all these years.
Oh,
and then, of course, then one day he called me up and said, "Hey, I've got this idea for, I did this album for these folks called December People, where we used a bunch of different singers from other bands to play traditional holiday songs, but in the style of classic rock bands. So like, ZZ Top, you better watch out, you better not cry, you better, so that's what we do." I said, "Oh, that's great. That sounds cute. Yeah, that's a good idea." And he said, "I want to do this live." I said, "Oh, okay, well, good luck, And then he said, "But every show we do, I want to do it as a benefit for like a local food bank."
Sure.
And I said, "Oh, well, count me in on that.
Yeah,
let's do that." So, we could give money to any number of organizations worldwide, but he said, "I want to do it locally for local folks."
That's
so
awesome.
that when people come locally to see us, bring cans of food to the show, and we'd have barrels full of, food, for the homeless and all that, and give it to the local food bank. So anyway, that's what we do.
That is so awesome and so generous too. I just absolutely loved hearing about what December People was doing when they played. And you play only locally to the Santa Clara County area, right?
Mostly. We have gone further afield. We played in Michigan and New York City and where else? And Connecticut. So we've done a few, but mostly in right there in the Bay Area, or Monterey. Yeah.
Well, you know what, Gary, I am going to say that we're running out of time.
Yeah.
And that this has gone by so fast. And I have so much more that I love to talk to you about. So I hope that you will be able to sit down with me again and I can pick up where I left off. But it has been such a pleasure having you on today. And this is Gary Pihl from Boston, from Alliance, from Sammy Hagar, from December People, from the Rhodes. And hi, this is Dyanne Klinko, Backstage Pass Presents. I wanted to say a special thank you to our guest today, Gary Pihl of Boston, Alliance, Sammy Hagar, December people, and the roads. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, Gary, for coming on today and talking with me. I'm so sorry we ran out of time, but I do hope that you'll talk with me again. I have so much more I would love to share with everyone, and I have questions I would just love to get answers to that we didn't cover today. So take care. Thank you all very much for tuning in and watching. Bye-bye.